All right, welcome back to Bet99's The Parleh Show. Rob Conway in studio, of course, with Justin Pouding. But joining us now,
special guest.
We have a huge guest. It is UFC 292 coming up, and he is a champion in 2 weight classes in the UFC and a UFC Hall of Famer and a Canadian sports icon. It's George St.Pierre. George, how you doing, my man?
Doing fantastic. Yourself, guys?
Very, very well. I'm excited. We got a big card coming up. A couple of title fights. One in the Bantamweight division, George, that, this division's been a little bit of a question mark over the last little while. But, look, Aljamain Sterling's been the champion. He has a couple of defenses. But with regards to the actual fight, we have a pretty standard style here. We got a guy who's a jiu-jitsu specialist in Sterling, going to try and probably take this fight to the mat. You got O'Malley. He's a striker. When you have two guys that have kind of opposing styles, how do you think this is going to play out in the early rounds?
Well, I was very impressed by Sterling's performance against Cejudo. He was able to put Cejudo down, a world-class wrestler. So, to me, it means that at some point, the fight will hit the ground if Aljamain Sterling wants it. Okay. And a big question mark is how O'Malley will react to this. O'Malley is very charismatic. He's very good, but he never fought someone the caliber of Sterling. It's going to be a hell of a fight.
George, you mentioned it, that O'Malley's a fan favorite. Sterling's been kind of doubted as a champion. Of course, he got the title through a controversial disqualification, had 2 split decisions, had a solid fight against Sandhagen. Do you think if Sterling puts on a solid performance against a fan favorite like Sugar Sean O'Malley, he will finally get his justification as a true champion among fans and UFC media?
Well, to me, he's a true champion. He proved it many times. The fans react. Fans like drama, I guess. They react. They're more emotional than sometimes rational. I'm talking about the big percentage of it. They like to be entertained. That's why they're watching it in the first place. So it's if I'm very objective, for this fight, I believe Sterling would be the favorite. In terms of tools, in terms of weapon. But we have an emotional aspect that sometimes can change the data. And that's what is happening here with O'Malley. O'Malley creates a lot of drama. He's very emotional. He has so much charisma. People it's either you love him or hate him, but you can't ignore him.
Yeah, and if he has his way, obviously this is going to be a stand-up fight, George. And If you're a guy who is, I'm not going to say afraid to go to the mat, but let's be honest, if he goes to the mat, Sterling is going to be in control here. So how is it going to be for him to try and keep it on the feet, but still focus enough on trying to execute his strikes? Because obviously he's got a head kick, he can punch, he can knock out Aljamain Sterling, there's no doubt about it. But if you're so worried about being taken down, how do you manage both of those things at the same time?
Exactly. If he goes out there and he's afraid of Sterling ground game and he respects it too much, he's going to be gun shy. And that's what you don't want to be in a fight. You don't want to be gun shy. You want to go there and put it all on the line, risk it all, go big, And it's also Sterling, how Sterling will react to the O'Malley. There's a lot of emotion in that fight. O'Malley is different in a way. He's a little bit like a Conor McGregor type of fighter in a way that he plays with your emotion. Because the fans are going to tune in more. This is going to be a big fight. And some guys, they react very well to this. It make them rise, but some others, it crumble them. So it's going to be interesting.
George, you mentioned a lot about emotion. Now, you've had 9 title defenses yourself. You've been a challenger as well. Take me into the mindset of a champion defending his title and the challenger trying to acquire the title. Is there the same mindset, or is there a totally different mindset on each side of the spectrum?
No, it's totally different. I personally was at my best when there was a lot on the line, when I had more to lose, because I felt like I was more prepared. That the fear helped me. The fear made my reaction time better, made me more explosive. The fear, I learned how to control my fear. Some guys it doesn't work like that. Some guys the fear it paralyzes them. The fear of the risk, the bigger the fight is, the more emotion there is, they freeze. Sometimes it could be a good thing or a bad thing. And when you're a champion, they say, and it's true by the way, it's hard to become champion, but it's even harder to stay champion, because when you're the champion, you're the target. You have guys that have been watching you for years, and they train and they get prepared only to fight you. You on the other side, when you're a champion, you only heard of them a few months before you're about to fight them. So your preparation is not as specific as they are, in a way, because when you train for a specific opponent, you everything is specific to that particular problem, that particular person. When you're a champion, you have different contenders, so you have multiple guys that you need to face and put your eyes on and get ready to fight. When you're the champion, when you're the contender, you have one guy, he's on top, and that's the one that you want to take. You want his spot, you want to take his place.
Yeah, it's interesting how that dynamic works out. So, in your opinion here, Sterling, he's the big favorite at Bet99. How do you think? What's your prediction here for the main event?
I think Sterling is the big favorite. If I try to be objective, I think he has more tools on paper to win the fight. However, we know that it's not always the best fighter that wins the fight. It's the fighter that fight the best the night of the fight. So some people might believe that O'Malley will get into Sterling's head. He has a particular style that will make Sterling freeze, or will be the perfect nemesis to Sterling, and that's a good risk to take according to the odds.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We got a good one in the co-main as well with Zhang Weili, as she's back on top as the champ against Amanda Lemos. But she had a good quote. I know you've heard it before, the Bruce Lee quote. She wants to be like water in this one. What do you think she means by that going into this fight? There's other opportunities for her. She's going against the fifth ranked fighter in this division, but she's going to be like water. George, what's that mean for this fight?
Well, what that means is it could mean many things, but in that particular case, I believe that sometimes when you prepare too much for a certain type of scenario, and that scenario does not occur, you got surprised, and you take you outside of your comfort zone. What she meant by that, I believe she's ready to face any kinds of problem into the fight. She's gonna be like water. She's prepared for everything. She don't only focus on one particular situation. She's ready to anything, and that's I think the right mindset to go for a fight.
George, was there any particular fight going into your career where you had to be way more amiable and gather a lot more DNA? A fighter that really pushed you to stretch all levels of your arsenal?
Yeah. Well, there's fight that was the opposite. For example, and there was fight that had to be very well rounded. Like for example, one of the mistake I did, I believe, is when I fought Jake Shield. I put myself too much into that mindset of not going to the ground and just keep the fight standing up. And looking back at it, I think I could have gone to the ground with him, and I would have caused more damage and maybe turned the fight even more to my advantage. That was the wrong thing to do, and we talk about Weili. I think that's not what she wants to do. She wants to be like water, so she doesn't want to do that mistake. A fighter that I fought that forced me to use all my range of weapon was, I think, BJ Penn. Prime BJ Penn was probably the best fighter I ever fought in terms of skill. He was just like the perfect fighter. He had literally almost no weaknesses except of his, I would say, maybe his mind. His mind was his weaknesses. His weakness.
Yeah, interesting. When you get into a fight, George, that you have to have that ability to just, you're reacting, right? I mean, you have a game plan going in, but with Weili where she is, she's got some big fights ahead of her possibly, but you can't look past somebody, George. You know that, like with Lemos, she's going to be inside the octagon on Saturday night. You don't want to be thinking about a possible fight with Jan or whatever in China. But when you are the champ and there are so many different negotiations kind of going on, and this fight might happen or that might, and the fans want this one, and we want to build up, the following in China. So can that be a distraction? And how do you go about, when you're the champ, making sure you focus in on just the opponent that you have?
Well, I made the mistake myself as well. I learned the hard way, and yeah, those are the fight that seems the fight where I would say the odds favor you the most, that you feel that you're supposed to win it, with not much problem, are the most dangerous fights, because you always have to remember, you always at one mistake to lose everything in this game. At that level of competition, you make a mistake, you give your arm, you get arm bar, you zig when you should zag, you get knocked out. So it's unforgivable. Mistakes are unforgivable. So you need to make sure you prepare yourself every fight, not thinking past that opponent, and fight that fight like it's your life depend on it, because it really does.
One other fight on the card that we were talking about with your picks, it's Chito Vera, who's fought O'Malley, by the way, and did beat him, although that was, he kind of injured himself, O'Malley, in that fight. But he was extremely hyped going into it, and here he is back here. You like Vera in this one. Why do you like Chito?
Well, I think he's a powerhouse for his weight class. He's huge. I met him in person. Couldn't believe it. He's a powerhouse. I don't know how he cut all that weight, and I think he's gonna, if I look at his skills and his size different, I think that's his time. I would favor him personally.
George, we mentioned off the top that you're returning to competition, the Fight Pass Invitational 6. We know athletes are, creatures of habit. How is this training different from training in the past, and how's it going?
It's really different. People say you go back to fight. It's actually not really a fight. I personally do not consider grappling a fight, or boxing either. Boxing is not really a fight to me. A real fight, it's mixed martial art. You know what I mean? Grappling, it is a fight in a way, but you're not allowed to strike. If I take boxing, for example, it is a fight, but you're not allowed to punch, to elbow, to kick, to grapple, to throw someone down. So, it's different rules, a different sport, a different form of combat, very specialized. I'm very excited about it. I want to make people, create more awareness around that sport, because in first place, if mixed martial art took a lot of time to be legalized all around the world, is because of the grappling aspect. The people did not understood what was going on the ground. They couldn't understood why someone on top of his opponent is a punch, and when you try to explain to them, hey, it's not because you're on the bottom that you're losing the fight, it didn't make sense to them. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity to educate people on it, and I think it will tune in a lot of people, because a lot of people want to practice martial art, but they don't want to get punched. So I think it's going to bring a different audience, and it's going to be good also for MMA.
Yeah, we're really excited for it, and glad that the preparation is going well. And we'll talk to you many times before, but good luck continuing with the training, George, and thanks very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Glad to be here. Talk to you soon.